even though they're two large cities, they're quite similar. They're quite similar in sense they're both very developed, fast-paced, bustling cities.
Yes.
So it would be good if you're traveling there for the first time to go to one or the other. If you go to both, you're missing out, because you can go to a big city like, say, Beijing, and then travel south along the coast. You could see some beautiful places. You could go to, say, Hangzhou. Hangzhou is a beautiful place in Jiangsu, and you have like the Hangzhou Lake.
Yeah.
The West Lake, or you go to Suzhou, where the silk comes from.
Yeah.
And especially if you think about China in your mind's eye, the image that comes to mind, the beautiful scenery, the mountains surrounded by clouds, the bamboo forests, all that's in that area. That's beautiful too. And you could also go to Guangxi, which is in the south of China. And
you know a lot.
Well, no, these are just places that I've traveled to. I mean, there's so much to see. You would really need to plan well in advance where you would like to visit. But if I was to give any advice, it would be just one major city, Beijing, as you're starting off and departure point, and then travel. I personally like the south of China. I think it's very picturesque.
Do you celebrate Chinese traditional festivals since you have lived in China for 10 years?
13 years.
13 years, sorry.
Yeah, we would celebrate like the Spring Festival, obviously, like everybody else. And, say, the Mid-Autumn Festival. Yuanxiao, which is like the, what's that? Yuanxiao Festival.
It's rice bowl.
Yes.
With the sesame fillings.
Yeah. I like the rice bowl with sesame fillings festival.
That's quite funny. But Richard, do you know that there's also an Irish Cultural Week in Beijing and Shanghai every year?
Yes.
Have you ever been to that festival?
Yes, I have actually. I've also hosted some of the events for the Cultural Week. There has been a parade, Patrick's Day parade in Beijing. In Wangfujing. That was the first year they did it, was in Wangfujing.
Yeah.
And then it was changed to a different location. But yeah, I've many times. In the Irish Embassy in Beijing, there are quite a number of cultural gatherings where people would listen to Irish music sometimes.
Yeah.
They might even have dancing, or they might have a speaker. Like somebody, like say a poet or an author might be in China. Might be in China. Or there would be a focus on Irish writers or Irish arts, cultural arts and things like that.
I was so surprised to know there are also a very big GAA club in Beijing and Shanghai.
Yeah.
And a female GAA team in Beijing is actually very good, right?
From what I know, I'm not particularly sporty. I don't play football. But yes, I've read quite a lot about them myself, and I've seen them as well in Beijing. Not only in China, they take part in competitions in Asia.
Wow.
So they have their own league, the Asia Gaelic Games, and they would travel around Asia to take part in different competitions.
So I guess Irish people won't get lonely in China, huh?
Yeah, exactly. There's always a community. There's a strong community of Irish people in Beijing, particularly. I think there were about 200 or 300 people registered at the Irish Embassy, and because it's a relatively small community, if there is an event in the embassy, most people, if you're registered, you get an email, and they say, "Come along on the night of the 12th." At 7 to the Irish Embassy for drinks and food. And there might be some kind of an event. There might be a visiting politician, or we've had President Mary McAleese has been to Dublin on 2 occasions that I know of, and that would normally she would normally have with her a delegation, or it might be like a trade mission. We're bringing businesses, Irish businesses to China to basically to meet their Chinese counterpart, to do business and to encourage Sino-Irish economic, what's that word? 合作, cooperation. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so at last, what do you think about Chinese people? Do you have problems or difficulties to work with them?
Wow, that's a huge question. That would be an episode on its own, talking about Chinese people. Generally speaking, Chinese people, like any people, are very nice, very friendly, very willing to help. That's friendly, isn't it? Very open to new ideas. as individuals, however, sometimes you might find when talking to Chinese people, it's difficult to really understand what they're thinking. If you ask, I suppose it's like talking to ladies, to girls.
Yeah.
You ask a girl, what's wrong? She will never say nothing. Or, sorry, she will always say nothing. She'll never tell you exactly how she's feeling.
But actually there's definitely something
under the surface. Well, you know, in Chinese there are many expressions to talk about the personalities, like, talk about, say, 拐弯抹角. It's like you're kind of indirectly. That's how a lot of conversation and negotiation is carried out in China. It's like indirect.
Yeah.
For example, if you wanted something done, it's very rare that you would go to the person who would be responsible for that thing and say, please do this for me. That would be very rare you would do that. In fact, if you did that, it wouldn't get done. So what normally would happen would be, in a social situation, you talk about something totally unrelated. And you could talk about anything. You could talk about a movie, you could talk about politics, and then at the very end of the meeting, you might say, oh, 对了, 还真有一个事要麻烦您. And then you'd say, I've got something I was wondering if you could help me with. At the very last moment. I mean, it's a science. The art of negotiation is a science unto itself with Chinese people. The basic core of the problem is that Chinese people, generally speaking, don't like to show to offend, but I would say to show their genuine emotion about any issue. Because if they do that, then there is no way to protect themselves in case either they don't want to help or cannot help. So therefore, you would never get a direct answer to a direct question, in business anyway. If you were to ask somebody, can you do this? The usual answer would be, it shouldn't be a problem. Now, that doesn't mean I can do it, or I will do it, or even I can do it. It means, 按理说应该能办. But it doesn't mean that it will get done. And that's typical, really, of different negotiations.
Okay. So guys, just don't get too upset, because it's just Chinese tradition.
Yes. I mean, it's a very complicated problem. It's not something you could just answer in a couple of minutes. You would have to talk about specific dealings with Chinese people. If you're talking about business, there's a whole set of rules to go with business Chinese. If you're talking about one-on-one communication between friends, that's very different. If you're talking about communication between lovers, that's very different as well. You know, I mean, it's a science unto itself.
Okay, just don't be too worried, because according to a survey, Irish people are more similar to Chinese people.
I think so, definitely. Particularly in the northeast of China, Dongbei. Dongbei. The northeastern Chinese people are actually quite similar in many respects, in terms of culture, in terms of
even drinking culture.
Yeah, drinking culture in terms of food, very similar foods.
Yes.
就白菜炖炖豆腐 and all that kind of stuff. 炖菜 and all sorts of things. So, you know, it's quite easy for me as an Irish person living in the northeast, because there's so many similarities. But in terms of negotiation with Chinese people, I would suggest getting books out of the library. I know there are many books. One particular book I could recommend is called The Art of Negotiating, called 关系. And it's called Art of Negotiation. It's worth reading to give you an insight into the correct way to deal with Chinese people.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Are you going back to China tomorrow?
Yes, Monday.
Have a safe journey.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for coming to our studio. Hope everything goes well with your career in China, and have a safe journey. As you are leaving tomorrow, today our song would be 1,000 Miles Away from Jay Chou again. You know, one of the most famous lines in this song is, say you off to the places that are thousands of miles away. Hope you like the song.
无言如悬崖，风铃入沧海，我等雁归来。时间被安排，演一场意外，你悄然走开。故事在窗外，浓雾散不开，看不清对白。你听不出来，风声不存在，是我在感慨。梦醒来，是谁在窗台？ 结局打开，那把如尘埃的未来，经不起谁来摘。我送你离开千里之外，你无声黑白，沉默年代或许不该太遥远的相爱。我送你离开天涯之外，你是否还在？情深何来，生死难猜，用一生去等待。一生琉璃白，透明着尘埃，你无瑕的爱。你从雨中来，诗化了悲哀，我离世现在。
不容睡眠在，真心应犹在，你却不回来。被岁月覆盖，你说的花开，过去成空白。
梦醒来是谁在窗台，把结局打开？
那把如尘埃的未来，经不起谁来摘。
我送你离开千里之外，你无声黑白，沉默年代或许不该太遥远的相爱。
我送你离开天涯之外，你是否还在？情深何来，生死难猜，用一生。
我送你离开千里之外，你无声黑白，沉默年代或许不该太遥远的相爱。
我送你离开天涯之外，你是否还在？情深何来，
生死难猜，用一生去等待。
Hi folks, you are still listening to Hello China at 103.2 Dublin City FM. The song A Thousand Miles Away is definitely a farewell song for friends. In China, if someone is leaving for a trip, the friends and parents would say things like, have a safe journey. So today, Hello China is going to teach you how to say have a safe journey home in Chinese. It is 一路平安. 一路 means a journey. 平安 means safe. So 一路平安, a safe journey. 一路平安. One last time. 一路平安. Richard, have a safe journey home. 一路平安. Well, that's all for today's Hello China. Hope Richard have answered all your questions. For more queries, just drop us a line to hellochina@dublincityfm.ie. See you next week and good night.